Good morning. Hello to friends near and far, long-term and new. Welcome to the May 23rd Sunday service at the North Unitarian Universal Chapel in Woodstock, Vermont. I'm Susan Inouye.
And I'm Don Ransom.
It's our pleasure to welcome all of you this morning. We hope that you are well.
We are living in a rapidly changing, constantly evolving world. We're pulled in many simultaneous directions as we discover reasons to question and to doubt the very foundations of our culture, our society. In the midst of this chaos-driven doubt, we believe that it's even more imperative to recognize and to affirm the critical value of community, the necessity of pulling together.
In order for us to work through our current challenges, we must remember the infinite possibilities that are created as the result of faith in ourselves and faith in each other, the faith to be honest, the faith to serve the common good.
We must also remember that we are the stewards of our natural world. Our planet is suffering from our neglect, from our selfishness, and we can reverse this destructive pattern only if we come together as a community and do the right, necessary work to protect and nurture our environment.
Native Americans had a clear, intimate knowledge of and deep wisdom and relationship with the natural world. Therefore, we would like to close our welcome this morning with a few quotes from Chief Seattle, chief of two of the Native American tribes of the Pacific Northwest, where we live now. Some of his words may be familiar to you. It's important that we hear his wisdom, but it's even more important that we internalize it and make it manifest in the world.
Humankind did not weave the web of life. We are but one thread in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect.
Teach your children what we have taught our children, that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the children of the earth. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites one's family. All things are connected.
All things share the same breath. The beast, the tree, the human. The air shares its spirit with all the life it supports. Put an amen on that.
Yes, I was just going to say amen. The Reopening Task Force has asked us to give you 3 reminders this morning. First, please complete the reopening questionnaire, which can be found on the church website by clicking on News and Events and then clicking on Church Notices, where you will find the link to the questionnaire. You have also received an email on Wednesday this past week with this link.
There's a Zoom meeting today after church at 11:30.
That's Sunday.
Yes, which would be Sunday. And there's another meeting tomorrow on Monday at 10, another Zoom meeting. The links for these meetings will both be found in that same email you received last Wednesday.
And finally, the third announcement, there will be brown bag, which means bring your own, lunches in the backyard of the church, weather permitting, on every Wednesday, beginning this coming Wednesday, May 26th at noon, hosted by the Reopening Task Force. This will be an excellent opportunity to experience the reality of getting together once again. Please don't forget to bring a folding chair or a lawn chair for your comfort.
And finally, and with great joy, the North Chapel wants to wish our minister Leon a very happy birthday today. Happy birthday, Leon.
Yes, happy birthday, Leon. Please join in singing our opening song, Touch the Earth, Reach the Sky.
Hello, my name is Laura Foley, and I'm speaking to you today from South Pomfret, Vermont, on a very summery May day. I wanted to read you this poem about, well, it's really about meditation in the dental chair, or being in odd places and bringing some consciousness to that place. And in this case, my experience brought me closer to my late mother, to my mom, made me think about my mother. And also it's about the power of the imagination. Angels in the dental chair. My mother comes to me in the dental chair, or you could say I go into her, my mouth propped open while others strap a rubber dam over it. Mom's breathing choked by a bite of steak caught in her throat, dying alone on the floor. Willing myself back from panic, I note their names, Angel, the assistant, and Angela, dentist. Guarded as Mom wasn't, by wings and light, their gentleness of touch, professional skill of those who hold me on the chair, quickly cutting a breathing hole to let air in. I refuse anesthetic, focus on my breath, easing smoothly in, breath flowing calmly out, relax my outstretched legs and arms, body breathing through every pore, palms opened to receive the moment, grating drill fading as Mom hovers and fades back into memory. My banging on her bedroom door, barricaded against Dad's rage, but she pulls it open for me. We play house on her bed, walled by pillows, roofed by sheets, creating a temporary sanctuary where we both breathe a little easier in the new home we've made, and I find again today in the dental chair. Chloe. Chloe, come.
As I was turning the soil in the garden, so early in the morning that I can't really say, I was humming a song to myself. Across the Bridge by Ferris and Jason Romero. Melody only, I had not yet learned the words, so I looked them up, and they were these. Across the bridge, there is no more sorrow. Across the bridge, there is no more pain. The sun will shine across the river, and we'll never be unhappy again. And then the eastern star did shine, not across the river, but across the brook. It climbed one step higher in the sky, falling upwards into the morning. And it's really true, I haven't been unhappy ever since. I think it's going to be a very beautiful summer garden. Good morning and good Sunday. I hope that this new day finds you well. My name is Leon Dunkley, and I'm honored to serve here as minister at North Universalist Chapel Society, or North Chapel, in Woodstock, Vermont. Today is Sunday, May the 23rd, and the title of this morning's reflection is Starfall, the Nearness of Loss. Today is May the 23rd, and I am 26. That's nice. I am 56 years old this day. Born at 3:30 in the morning. I guess that's why I love youth and why I love daybreak as much as I do. Welcome to the morning, and welcome to North Chapel. To all souls, I say good morning. It is good to be together. Sabra said that she would introduce me to the lovely people of East Barnard, Sabra Field, Vermont's own well-known artist. She lives not far from here. You've seen her work, I'm sure. She's wonderful. She is iconic. She's famous. There's a full-length documentary film that's written about her. It's easy to find online, and she even publishes calendars. So, what else do I need to say, really? She's famous. I had just moved to town, so this is 4 years ago now. I had just moved to town, and I didn't know anybody, and I didn't really know where I was. I felt happy. I felt like I was home, except I didn't really know where the post office was. And I couldn't find the grocery store, and I didn't know where the subway was. And it all made me feel a little nervous at first. The sounds of sirens and cell phones had been replaced with peepers and birdsong. And at night, it was all so still outside. I couldn't hear the street sounds, the cars and the buses. I couldn't hear the rumblings of trains and tunnels beneath the surfaces of things. I moved up to the Upper Valley from just outside of Washington, D.C., and there's a subway system down there. They call it the Metro. The trains run underground from Shady Grove to New Carrollton on the Maryland side of things, and from Falls Church and Foggy Bottom if you're coming in from Virginia. All roads lead to the heart of the city. And the subway takes you underground, and it brings you right into the center to all of the monuments for Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln, Mason, for the Roosevelts, for Einstein, and for King. And from the northwest and east, and from the southeast and west, the subway takes you to the core, to the Federal Center, to DuPont Circle, to the Smithsonian's, and to L'Enfant Plaza. L'Enfant. He was famous. Pierre Charles L'Enfant from the 18th century. He was a military engineer, obviously French. But he enjoyed the dual citizenship of his day. He called himself Peter when he lived stateside. I suppose it was easier for him. L'Enfant was the designer, the architect. He laid out plans for the District of Columbia. He's famous now, and there's a whole plaza named after him, L'Enfant Plaza, in the heart of the city. It's a lovely part of town, and the blue line and the green and yellow and orange lines of the subway all will take you there directly. The red line, the only line remaining, will get you close. The red line feeds all 4 other lines at stations that are only 2 or 3 stops away. Arguably, L'Enfant is the heart of the city, the place where all roads converge, as it were. And Pierre Charles, or Peter L'Enfant, is its namesake. He's pretty famous, but he doesn't have a calendar. So he's no Sabre Field in my book. You might think I'm being silly, but I'll take him more seriously if he gets himself a calendar. Now, I moved to Vermont from a place called Hyattsville in Maryland. It's a neighborhood on the Green Line. It's congested. More than 18,000 people live in the neighborhood of Hyattsville. It's pretty small. It's less than 3 miles square. It's tiny, actually. And by comparison, the Shire of Woodstock, this farming community in which we live, is much larger. It's almost 47 square miles. And there aren't 18,000 people here. There are only 3,000. We're only 3,000 strong. So we're 5 times, we're 15 times larger in size, but we've got 1/5 of the population. So needless to say, moving here was a bit of a shock to my system. That's why I was so happy when Sabre Field said she would introduce me to the neighbors. I felt nervous because I didn't really know where the post office was, and I couldn't find the grocery store, and because I didn't see any subway stations anywhere I looked. And how was I supposed to find my way to the heart of things? Moving here was a real shock. In fact, I used to joke about it. I used to say that there were more people living in my apartment building in the DC area than there are living in all of East Barnard, which is almost literally true. There are a lot of people in Washington, D.C., but they don't always take the time to talk to one another. So I was a little nervous to meet everybody. I felt like I was out of practice, out of the sacred practice of simple kindness. I was nervous. So as you can imagine, I was immensely comforted when Sabre Field, Vermont's famous artist, when she said that she would introduce me to everyone in the neighborhood. I was very glad to have a guide. The neighborly introductions were to take place at the community center in the heart of the town of East Barnard, where all roads lead. Well, where two roads meet at a stop sign, but I think you get my point. There was going to be a gathering, oyster supper, I think it was. And Sabra and I were going as a team. Relieved, I let it be known that I was planning to attend, so I was expected by the neighbors that I was about to meet. Everything was set and I couldn't back out. At the last minute, though, Sabra had a conflict and she could not be my guide. I would have to go it alone. She told me not to worry. There are moments when I really do believe that there is a God and that she is a trickster. So my nervousness flooded back in. Torrentially, I hid it as well as I could, which was not very well. I braved it. I went to the neighborhood gathering all by myself, and I felt terribly out of place, but I really wasn't. Everyone was friendly enough, and they all seemed to know each other. They all seemed close, like a really big family, and I knew no one. It felt like the first day of first grade, and I had a bad haircut. And then a little miracle started to unfold. I heard the laughter of a kid who was playing on the swings. I heard his voice, I heard him giggle. His giggle reminded me of my own in childhood. Laughter does that sometimes because joy is universal. So this little mystery kid and his giggle from some home nearby was on a holy mission to shake me from the barren tree of loneliness and anxiety. And he did, quite handily, actually, time and time again. Laugh after giggling laugh, he was my shepherd that day. I just followed the call of his laughter and it led to good community. My little shepherd wasn't alone. I noticed a young woman was with him, his mother, I guessed. She was looking after him, but she was not obsessing. She was pretty cool, mild-mannered, and she kept distance enough so that the child could experience some independence, but not so much distance that the child would feel left alone. It seems hard to strike that balance, but parents do it all the time. She and I fell into conversation. I needed that. I thought that she said her name was Ashley, but I was distracted at the time by my nervousness and by her height, actually. She was shorter than most people I know, and I was somehow delighted by that. It was my sense that she had a strong personality. She was easy to talk to. I can't remember what we talked about, but I remember that it was fun. And I remember that our laughter joined so easily with the laughter of her son, overlapping and overflowing so gently. It was like the joining of separate waters from two gently or three gently flowing streams that intermix and become one and the same. Very soon, her husband, a much taller man, came over to us. He had a warm and gentle smile, and he had an easy way about him. His shoulders were down. He was about 20 years younger than me, maybe, but he seemed like an age-old friend. I felt like I had known him as a child, but that was impossible. I really felt it, but I knew that it could not be. Are you familiar with the old song by Harry Chapin? He used to sing about this kind of feeling that you can have about people. He sang a song called All My Life's a Circle, sunrise and sundown. The moon rose through the nighttime until the daybreak rolls around. All my life's a circle, and I can't tell you why. The seasons are spinning around again, and the years keep flowing by. And Harry would sing, I've met you 1,000 times. Guess you've done the same. That was the line that stuck in my mind that day. That's how I felt when I met Ashley's tall husband. He felt like an age-old friend who was brand new. The height difference between them was tremendous, actually. It tickled me and made me chuckle, just like their kid, only not quite right out loud. They were clearly used to initial delights of other people. They were used to riding the delights of others. They were buoyed. easily. It's a really good skill to have, the skill of riding the bubble of lightness, the easy laughter of other people. It's a really good skill to make regular good use of. We all talked together for a few moments or so, and soon enough it was time to eat. So we got up and headed inside to pay for our tickets and to receive our meals. And when we did, I saw someone who I truly recognized. Truly in the sense that we had had real life conversations. I knew him. Truly. So I took the opportunity to do some introductions. I consulted with Ashley briefly to make sure that I had the names right. The names of the lovely laughter baby and the name of her impossibly tall husband. And she said that Mateo was the name of the little laughing child and that Nick was the name of the super tall man who was her husband. And I delivered this new information to the one man that I recognized that day, and he met me with such graciousness, with his normative smile, and with his open-heartedness, and he said proudly, newly free of my anxiety. I said, David, may I introduce you to my 3 new friends that I've made? Have you met Ashley and her husband, Nick, and their lovely son, Mateo? And Ashley and Nick were laughing, and Mateo was riding the bubble. David looked into my eyes, into my heart, but he didn't say anything, not right away. At first, he just stood there smiling and enjoying the moment. I felt strange. I felt like I didn't understand the punchline of my own joke. We all just stood there and no one said anything, and I'm thinking to myself, awkward. I wanted to run away. I wanted to go home. And I got suddenly and strangely angry at Sabre Field. If only Sabre had been there, none of this would be happening. And then David says, explaining and easing the anxiety, yes, Leon, I have met these people. I have met Nick. He is my son. And my jaw just about hit the ground. Once again, I tried to hide it. David continued. Ashley is my daughter-in-law, and Mateo is my grandson. And then I started riding the bubble of lightness. We all went inside and found dinner together. And what are the chances of that? Astronomical, really. The mathematics alone are enough to blow your mind. I used to think that math was boring, numbers and functions and matters of fact. But then it all became spectacular and magical. There's a scene in an old movie where a character named Paul is trying to impress this lovely young woman. Paul is a mathematician, and he is trying to explain his career. He says, there is a number hidden in every act of life, in every aspect of the universe, fractals, matter. There is a number screaming to tell us something. Numbers are a door, he says, to understanding the mystery that is bigger than us. How 2 people, or 4 people, or 5 people in this case, how strangers come to meet. There's a poem by a Venezuelan writer that begins, the earth turned to bring us closer. It turned on itself and in us until it finally brought us together in this dream. There are so many things that have to happen for 2 people to meet. Anyway, that's what mathematics are, end quote. Those lines impressed me. And the woman that Paul was pursuing in the movie was slowly falling in love, and so was I. Falling in love with love and life and laughter. Falling in love. That's what happens in good community. We fall in love with one another. Not romantically, but on a different level. On a level that is more mundane and less dramatic, but in some ways deeper and more profound. This kind of love is basic and grounding and gentle and clear and constantly amazing. It affects us all quite deeply and sometimes in surprising ways. We fall in love without our knowing. And there is no nervous period, and there is no stilted tension, and we are never once uncomfortable. There is no risk and no reward, and yet the earth turns and stars align to bring us all one step closer in this dream we dream awake. And we don't always notice its magnitude, not until the day that someone dies. David laughed. He sang in the choir. He made friends easily and held us close. His eyes, his soul, saw without judgment, with only love with only kindness and gratitude, he touched us and held this community. We were within his strong embrace. We are within his strong embrace, even now, especially now. We make good space for kindness, for his love and his laughter. He touched us all uniquely, and we touched him right back, each to our gift, in everyday and mundane ways that were once in a lifetime and spectacular. Sometimes when we are present to the fullness of life, as David often was, the everyday things, the once-in-a-lifetime things, seem to coalesce and conjoin like flowing waters that intermix and become one and the same. David laughed and sang in the choir, and the choir will miss him so. All of us will. The tenors, who admired the depth and the power of his voice, the altos and their inner work harmony, who were ever grounded by him, and the sopranos, who for their position directly in front of him were the beneficiaries, the beneficiaries of his talents as a masseuse. And of course, his fellow bassists who knew him deeply and as their own. He touched us. He touched our lives. Soft and deep and resonant, we can still hear him. He anchored us so warmly and so well, and it's our turn now. Our turn to anchor David and his spirit, starbound and stellar as it is. We now anchor David, we, the choir of his angels. We, his living constellation, his community. When I learned of David's passing, I just shut down a little bit. I knew David's parents, Al and Edith Doolittle. They were dear to me, and I knew them way back in the 1980s. We go way back to Star Island. I met them on Star Island. Edith ran the gift shop, the one that was named after her. And Al was a quiet teacher who could not stop talking about his telescope, the one that he would set up on the front lawn to look at the heavens. And on clear nights, he would show us planets and their rings and their moons and everything. You could see nebula and distant galaxies. You could see stars and constellations that were impossibly far away. Leo and Andromeda, Cassiopeia and Orion. The telescope brought them near enough to touch. When someone that we love dies, it's like a star falls out of a constellation. A necessary star falls away and touches Earth. What had once reached the sky, what had once long been wished upon, comes crashing through cathedrals, breaking through roofs and windows, busting through doorways and breaking our hearts. Stars that were so far away are suddenly close at hand. This is the nearness of loss and the preciousness of it. When loss strikes us so near and so close, at the heart of us, it's just so hard and so sad. And it is also so beautiful that he lived and loved so fully and so honestly and so well. For this, part of us dies along with him, and that's just how it is. But we live on. We are called by love to do so. When a star falls, we are called to live life more beautifully. Starfall, have you ever seen such a thing? There's a musical group from the 1970s called Firefall. They had a song that I used to love to sing, but their name is what's fascinating me today. Firefall took its name from a spectacular event that used to occur in Yosemite National Park in California. For nearly 100 years, they would build a great big pyre at the peak of Glacier Point, and the sun would set, the darkness would come, and when everything was safe, they would push the fire down the mountainside. The drop was a sheer 3,000 feet to the rocky bottom, and it was like a burning waterfall. And so many gathered to watch and were amazed at this river of fire and light that came crashing down to earth. We are starlight. We are all this brilliant, and David reminded us of this. It's one of the reasons that we love him so. He just had so very much to give. I can't remember who told me this story. from the late stage of his life, but I heard from someone that David was forgetting some things, but remembering other things as well. He would remember things like the sacred practice of simple kindness. David saw someone that he thought he recognized, but whose name he could not remember. And he smiled and he said, "I don't remember who you are, but I think that I'm supposed to hug you." Blessings are rarely more beautiful than this. You were a star. Thank you, friend. Thank you for burning so brightly and for being so brilliant. Thank you for seeing your light reflected in those who have looked up to you, which is difficult not to do because you were so very tall, just like your son. A poet writes, "Me and you reach for the same stars in heaven, singing. And it's hard to choose when the moon and Mars are where they are tonight. But in every midnight sky, I will see you shining enough to hold me tight, and I will stop to find my higher moments in your light." However it is that we experience the nearness of this loss that comes at the end of a long, hard year, let's keep our eyes wide. Let's keep looking for the fire and for the brilliance of everyday miracles and the brilliance of the once-in-a-lifetime starlight that guides our way. May it be so. Blessed be. And amen.